Ali Sarwar Naqvi, your sense
we want
of
good neighborly relations.
How the hold of the Pakistani military changes as a consequence of this crisis. Does the Pakistani military strengthen its hold even more on Pakistani society and state, if that at all is possible, given the tentacles they already have? Or does it loosen because people realize that the military is being overfed, it's corrupt, and therefore they start pushing back, and the army also starts pulling back a little towards their barracks because they realize that anger against them on the streets is mounting?
Well, I don't know. This whole thing about the military has been exaggerated enormously. I think the economic crisis has nothing to do with the military. And the military has no role to play in the economic crisis. So if we are discussing the economic crisis, then that is purely civilian. And
not really. Look at the spends in Pakistan as a percentage of the GDP on the military. Compare it to a country like India or other democracies, and you realize that Pakistan's economic priorities have been warped. That the military has been fattening itself, and part of the consequences that Pakistan are dealing with is because of the excessive budgets of the military.
Mr. Rahul, the military budget has been coming down since the last 10 years, and it is much less than what it used to be as a percentage of the GDP. So if you want to look at facts, please look at facts the right way. You can't just assume that the military has a huge budget, it's fat, it's corrupt, and all that. So, this is a caricature of the military which is not entirely in tune with reality. I think the economic crisis is what we are discussing, and that has nothing to do with the military.
Sushant, didn't you buy that for a moment, that this is an economic crisis unlinked to the military, unlinked to Pakistan's choices or priorities? Deal with this, and it needs to be dealt with only from an economic prism?
No, I don't. Simply because one is, of course, the direct cost that the military inflicts on Pakistan. And it's much more than what the Pakistani gentleman is saying. Because a lot of the expenses incurred on the military are hidden through some very innovative accounting practices by the Pakistanis. And I could go into that, but I don't think you will have the time for that. But so that is one, is the direct part. The second is the indirect portion. One, the kind of instability that the military's influence in Pakistani politics instills into the system, injects into the system. So, every civilian government is constantly looking over its shoulder. It does not have a security of tenure. Not a single prime minister has managed to complete his term. So there is that general interference in the politics of the country. And then, of course, is the national security policies which the military makes. For example, this entire jihad factory which Pakistan has become. Who created this? Who started this jihad factory? The Pakistan Army.
We are not a
and the Pakistan Army has been running this jihad factory, and this has damaged Pakistan much more than anything else has damaged economically, politically, socially, culturally, right? So somebody has to take the fall for that. Now, the Pakistani guy will not do it because, he is living in Pakistan. And he's probably not going to be honest enough to admit that. But will that not fall on the head of the military? And finally, the kind of adventurism that the army has done.
Okay.
Not only against India, in Afghanistan, in Iran, there have been cases where the Pakistani ISI has been involved in terrorism in Bosnia and in other places. They've busted UN sanctions out there. They've done all kinds of things. So someone has to take the fall for that. Obviously, the easiest thing to do it is put it on the civilians and absolve the military of all of that.